Okay, hello everyone. This should be the performance measurement. That should be week 6. I think I thought that it might be the recording via Zoom might be easier. So I will try to do the same. I think the sound is good and the picture is clear. So we will try just to move forward from here. So as usual, this week, which is supposed to be week 6, according to the teaching, we cover, we still, this topic, performance measurement, is related to segment reporting. So by the time you started to watch these videos and read about the material about segment, about the performance measurement, is linked to segment reporting. Sometimes it's in sometimes they are in one chapter: segment reporting and the responsibility centers, and the performance measurement for managers who are working in these centers or divisions or departments. They are linked to each other. So according to the updated module outline, it's that's already available to you in the course information, and the one that I emailed you is after I updated the environmental topic to cover it over 2 weeks. This week, which is commencing 9th of November, we're covering measuring managerial performance or performance measurement. So in the performance measurement, basically, as usual, we have a learning outcome or the lecture learning outcome. We are going to cover today return on investment and the residual income as two performance measurement. The topic of today is really very easy. Once you know the equation, you know how to implement it. I will try to record 2 videos. This video just to explain to you what does it mean return on investment and the links and the component and of return on investment. I will explain residual income also, and in the next video I will compare between both of them because the comparison is very important as well. So what is return on investment? It's basically return on investment is the net operating income divided by average operating assets. And by the way, return on investment, the abbreviation is ROI. So if you read any articles, if you read any research papers, we always use return on investment because it's very commonly used. In any paper you read, while you are doing any ratios, return on investment is a very commonly used in any discipline. Even for some people who are doing something in marketing or something in human resource or something in information technology, they always include return on investment as one of their variable. So you have to know the equation. If you get a question like this in the final exam, I will not provide you with any equations. You have to learn them. With online, you might look at them in your files, but anyway, I will not provide equations to you in the exam. So return on investment as simple as net operating income divided by average operating assets. This is the main equation. And then some researchers just tried to explain it in more details, and they found that return on investment can be margin multiplied by the turnover. Margin is net operating profit divided by sales, and the turnover is sales divided by average operating assets. Which one to use? It's you can use any one depending on the information that's available to you. So for example, if you got some information related to net operating profit and average operating assets and asked you to calculate the return on investment, so you have to use the main equation, which is net operating profit divided by average operating assets. But if you get sales, if you get net operating profit, average operating assets, and the sales, that means you might use the big one, which is margin multiplying by the turnover. It will give you the same, exactly the same answer. So return on investment again is net operating profit divided by average operating assets, or margin multiplying by turnover. So it's very, very important. Of course, I forgot to mention, of course, the PowerPoint of the whole topic is already available, will be available on Moodle once you find all these videos. And also at the back of the PowerPoint, there are some quizzes. I will leave them. I was thinking just to remove them, but I will leave them for you to engage with them, and I will provide you with answers as well. So controlling the rate of return, if you can see, controlling the rate of return, or the rate of return consists of all of that. What I mean by all of that, all these equations. So let's start from here. So this is the return on investment. And as you can see, it's a margin multiplying by the turnover. Margin is net operating profit divided by sales. And the turnover is sales divided by average operating assets. How we calculate net operating profit is cash take away all the operating expenses. And how we calculate average operating assets, it's current assets plus non-current assets. So operating expenses is cost of goods sold, selling expenses, administrative expenses. Current assets is cash, debtors, stock, non-current assets, plant, equipment, other assets. So the main point I wanted to explain it to you. Any change of any of these components will affect on return on investment. So if there is a change in the cost of goods sold, this will affect the return on investment. If there is a change in the selling expenses, administration will affect the return on investment. If there is a change in the level of the stock or inventory or cash or debtors or equipment or other assets, will affect the return on investment. So return on investment, yes, it's the component is margin multiplying by turnover, and it's the margin is net operating profit divided by sales, and the turnover is sales divided by average operating assets. But you have to know that the components of net operating profit and or the operating expenses and the average operating assets will if there is any change in any one of these components, will affect the return on investment. Remember this slide, because I will bring up this slide when I explaining inventory or the just-in-time or the inventory management, to let you see or remind you or let you remember that return on investment affecting in everything. So if there is a change in the policy of the inventory, will affect the return on investment. If there is change in anything, will affect the return on investment. I hope you got that. So let's start with a very, very tiny example. So the tiny example here, it says net operating income is 30,000, average operating assets is 200, sales is 500. So in this occasion, we calculate return on investment equal net operating income divided by average operating assets, and this will give us 15%. You have to remember that return on investment is a percentage. So it's always return on investment as a percentage. So when you put the figures, you have to click percent. So the return on investment here is 15%. It's very simple, very easy. It's not at all is how to there is no any complication on how to calculate the return on investment. Sorry, I forgot to mention that in the previous example, I have already implemented the main equation, which is net operating income divided by average operating assets. But because here we have the three items of the data, we have net operating income, we have average operating assets, and we have sales. That means we can check on our results by doing both of them, by doing the long one and the short one. So let's go and find out if this will give us the same answers. So it's a margin. The other equation or the detailed equation is margin multiplying by the turnover. Margin is net operating income divided by sales. Turnover is sales divided by average operating assets. So net operating income in the question is 30,000. Divided by sales is 500, and here turnover, sales divided by average operating assets. So sales is 500 divided by average operating assets 200. And if you just finish off this calculation, and this will give you exactly the same as 15%. So because we have the information of net operating income, average operating assets, and sales, it's very easy here to implement, or just to check the answer using the full equation and the detailed one. Okay, now here is controlling the rate of return. As I told you in the previous big kind of components of return on investment, that there are many items, many variables, many factors affecting return on investment. But the most important one that you have to focus on, that increasing sales, reducing expenses, reducing assets, or sales, expenses, assets will affect the return on investment. As simple as that. Let's see what does this mean. Just imagine in the same question, that the previous one, that we used to have net operating income 30,000, and average operating assets was 500. Average operating assets was 200, and sales was 500. Now the same example, or the same company decided to increase, or sales increased from 500 become 600, and net operating income increased from 30,000 become 42. And there is no any change in the average operating assets in this segment, or in this division, or in this department. Let's see how we're supposed to calculate that. We have the three items, we have the three component, we have sales, net operating income, and we have average operating assets. So let's do it with the long one, implementing margin multiplying by the turnover. So if we do so, including everything, that's the net operating income, we include 42 instead of 30, and the sales, we are going to include 500 instead of 600, and this will give us the return on investment increased and become 21%. So in the original case, the return on investment was 15%. And because some component changed and increased, this will increase, let the return on investment increase from 15% to become 21%. So all your rule is just to identify why this happened. I think by now you know, or you learned, or you already trained on don't take anything as it is, just digging in and explain why on earth the return on investment increased from 15% to become 21%. Now, if you wanted to explain this, or if you wanted to understand that, now return on investment include three items: sales, net operating income, average operating assets, right? Now, net operating income increased from 30,000 become 42. This is the first change. Second change, sales increased from 500 become 600. Second change. Third change, or third variable, or third thing happened, that the average operating asset did not change. So you have to explain that, because if there is a change in the average operating assets, this might be changed as well. So the change in return on investment from 15 to become 21, this is change because of the change in the three items. One of the items, there is nothing happened, and there is some, this is affecting the percentage, because if the 200 is changed, this might affect more or less or whatever. So the net operating income increased, sales increased, average operating asset is still the same, or there's no change in the average operating asset. It might be from some of you point of view, you said, I'm not going to explain that the average operating assets is not changed. No, you have to, because this affecting the change from 15 to become 21. Because if there is any change in the average operating asset, the return on investment might be reduced. We never know, or increased. So the three, there is something happened in the three items. two of them increased and the third one has no change. So we have to report on what's going on. So this is what we mean by return on investment and how to calculate it. Return on investment, basically, I will explain this in the next video, just a comparison between both of them. But return on investment is always focusing, or allow managers to focus on their own profits, their own investment, their own percentage. So, for example, the main criticism for return on investment, is that managers sometimes they will take the investment, or they will invest in some projects that will achieve their own objectives, and it does not matter whether this investment will be in achieving the whole company's objectives or not, because if the managers bonuses or salary depend on their evaluation or their performance, of course, from their point of view, they want to invest on these projects that will allow them to achieve their own aims. So let's see this wee tiny quiz here. It says here, as a division manager at this particular company, your compensation package includes a salary plus bonuses based on your division ROI. So the division ROI, the higher your ROI division, the bigger your compensation and your bonuses is. So of course, if you are a manager in this situation, you will definitely go for any project that will allow you to achieve your own aims. The company requires ROI of 15% on all the investment, but your division has been producing an ROI of 30%. You have an opportunity to invest in a new project that will produce an ROI of 25%. Would you go for this investment? And your package and your compensation is depending on your division ROI? I think the answer is no. So here, the answer here, these are, imagine that this one is a CEO, okay, and this is the manager of the division, or the segment. So the division manager, he wouldn't invest in this project because it would lower my pay, which is, doesn't make sense. But for the company, I thought we were supposed to do what is the best for the company. So in this occasion, it might be the company strategy. They have some strategic, dimension or objectives. Just we really need this and this and this. They have to look everything together, and this is what might take us back to implementing top-down approach or bottom-up approach. If it's a top-down, if it's a bottom-up approach, that means that the company should take all the targets and estimates, etc., from lower manager and mid-level manager, and then based on that, they might just put the estimates at the top. So return on investment, although it's easy, it can be easy to implement, easy to understand, very commonly used, all of that, but they have some criticism because it's based on the return on investment. Companies or managers, they might just take the decision that will affect their main objectives. So this is a return on investment, and because it's a percentage as well, based on a percentage. When we calculate it, it's a 15%, 21%, 20%. So also another criticism for the return on investment, that managers might take the investment decision that will be profitable on the short term and not looking what's happening in the long term. So because of this criticism, and the research is always, kind of going on, etc., some researchers are saying, okay, no, I'm not going to go ahead with return on investment. Let's do something called the residual income. What is the residual income is all about? It's a net operating profit, okay, above some minimum return on operating assets. What does this mean? Okay, yeah, I think you will understand that if we go to this tiny example. So it says here, sorry. it says here that this particular company, a division of this particular company has average operating assets. Okay, has average operating assets 100 and required to earn a minimum rate of return of 20%. And in the current period, the division profit is 30,000. Let's see what does this mean. So they have 20% a required rate of return or a minimum required rate of return, and we have operating assets is 100. That means that the required rate of return is 20,000. Where I get this 20,000 from? It's the operating assets. Okay, operating assets multiplying by the minimum required rate of return, and the minimum required rate of return is already identified by the whole company. That means that the required return is 20,000. Residual income, how we calculate the residual income? With the difference between actual return and the required rate of return or return. The actual return is 30,000 and the required return is 20. That means that the residual income is 10%. Let's go back to the definition and see whether this will make more sense now. Residual income is net operating profit, okay, which is the actual return above some minimum rate of return on the operating assets. So what we have done, we had operating assets which was 100, and we have a minimum rate of return which is 20%. We calculated that and we got the required is 20,000. This is 100 times 20%, and we compared the actual return. We compared this by the minimum return, and this is how, sorry, we compared the actual return with the required return, and this is how we got the 10,000 residual income. Of course, we are working in social science. Okay, I will explain this in the next video. We are working in social science. Every expression or every terminology or every method has its pros and cons. So in the next video, I will explain the differences or the advantages and disadvantages of both return on investment and residual income. It's all you really need to do in this particular topic to understand what return on investment is, the difference between return on investment and residual income, and how to implement these very, very, very simple equations. I think that's me now. Let me see. First of all, pause